And finally, in 1980s news, as reported by Time, alien abductee sues Netflix. So it turns out Netflix has got a new documentary, John. It's called The Manhattan Alien Abduction.
Mm-hmm.
It explores whether we are
already
alone.
knew that.
Oh, he already knows the story. There's been other documentaries he's seen about the story. He's read the book.
I just started watching the documentary the other day. Yeah.
Oh.
That's right. As reported by Time, John sues Netflix. That's eventually it was going to be that story when John finally gets abducted. All right. Where are we?
Okay. I should be so lucky.
And, now I picture they have like T-shirts and stuff like, I got married, or I'm a groom. John's gonna have I was finally probed, and he's saying that day and goes out. He goes out wearing a diaper. He's limping.
For the record, that won't be the headline. Mm-hmm. Just the abduction is the headline. The details you don't put on the T-shirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Like when you go to Disney, you don't get a T-shirt that says, I rode the river cruise. It's I went to Disney. The river cruise, I'll tell you about later. So the probing, I'll just tell you once you ask me about the shirt. Otherwise, it's not going to be. It's not on the shirt.
That's for those who are committed, who want to learn more.
Ask me about my alien abduction.
Ask me about my anal probe.
Yeah. Right.
That's the hat. That's the hat
yes,
you wear.
That's the hat.
Yes.
Right. And then it's going to have on that hat, it's going to have a series of numbers that people can take to ask questions because you're going to be busy. All right. So Netflix's new documentary, The Manhattan Alien Abduction, explores whether we are alone in the universe. And although it ultimately seems to err on the side of skepticism, the real controversy may be happening behind the scenes. The three-part series, helmed by Vivienne Perry and Daniel Vernon, investigates the alleged abduction of Linda Napolitano, a New York City housewife who claimed that in the early morning hours of November 30th, 1989, 3 extraterrestrial beings kidnapped her from her 12th floor downtown apartment, beamed her through the sky to their spaceship, and performed experiments on her before returning her to her bedroom. Now, the first thing is, I bet on their planet, there's a joke about how many aliens does it take to abduct a woman for a 12th story bedroom.
Right.
12th floor.
Yes.
Bedroom.
It takes 3. 1 to Snorglax, 1 to enable the wiffle gong, and the third one has to manage them.
He had that ready.
No, I've heard that one before.
Oh, you have? I set him up because I knew you knew it.
Okay.
The case was previously documented from an apparent believer's standpoint in the 1997 book Witnessed, the true story of the Brooklyn Bridge abduction, by the late author Bud Hopkins, who plays a pivotal role in this controversy. Hopkins was a prominent ufologist and YouTuber who had a close relationship with Napolitano prior to his death in 2011. However, the purported evidence put forth and witnessed in support of Napolitano's claims is contested in the new docuseries by Hopkins, who is the late Hopkins' late ex-wife, Carol Rainey. Rainey gave her own side of the story to Netflix before she died in 2023. Rainey claims that the whole thing was an elaborate hoax.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just started it. There are a half dozen witnesses who saw the woman floating across the sky.
Oh.
And they thought it was a stunt. They thought it was a drone. They thought it was not a drone, whatever, there weren't drones back then, but they just thought it was a gag because here they're in Manhattan. People doing crazy stuff all the time in Manhattan, some advertising gimmick or whatever. And I haven't watched all of it enough to yet know on which side I fall, but I'm starting to get the beginnings of this story. And it's pretty compelling. I didn't know this particular story. I'd heard of it, but never read anything about it. So it's fascinating. Yeah.
All right. So you're learning.
Brandon says that John isn't going to be happy until he has a satellite sticking out of his butt like that South Park episode.
There are other ways to make me happy.
Marcus says, I now know what John's getting for Christmas.
It's going to be the hat, I think.
Yes.
Ask me about my probe.
Well, John, and look, I don't mean to spoil anything from the documentary for you, but
No, go ahead. Yeah.
with regard to these witnesses, where did I go here? You're right. Okay, blah blah blah.
I love when he says blah blah blah.
Yes. So, John, I don't mean to spoil anything for you with regard to the documentary, but
Sorry.
You're right. The crux of the case of Napolitano's abduction claims rest on the assertion that 23 people allegedly came forward saying they had witnessed her floating through Manhattan sky.
Wow. 23.
However, turns out that none of the witnesses' identities have ever been verified, and there's no concrete evidence that the two men who provided the most compelling testimonies, alleged security officers named Richard and Dan, who were supposedly parked in a nearby car guarding the then UN Secretary General Javier Perez de Cuellar, even existed, as they communicated with Hopkins exclusively through letters. In the documentary, Rainey called Napolitano's accounts of these men into question, arguing that Napolitano wrote them herself. Rainey worked with a forensics expert to prove that the handwriting between the letters from her and from the men were, quote, virtually identical.
Okay.
Right. And to your earlier point, so you find this hard to believe, but you can imagine that a piece of space junk the size of a Volkswagen over 1 billion miles away can communicate with us here on Earth.
You know,
no sweat.
I realize what it is really, John, is I don't believe any of it.
Oh, okay. None of it.
That's why I'm saying, like, I'm becoming a flat earther, I realize. I'm not going to believe, well, that's dumb. That's dumb. I'm going to believe a moon landing was faked, that kind of thing.
Oh.
All these things that seem technologically like there's a gap that we can't imagine we filled.
Yeah.
We know he filled the gap.
Oh.
Yes.
Alien technology from Hangar 18 in Nevada.
Oh,
Yeah,
you know what you thought he was going to say, Cat, right?
Yes, I know.
No.
That's where my mind went.
I mean, it made sense. You know how to fill a gap. Alien technology.
Cat.
I know, it was Cat.
Could you?
Probing.
And then this former Secretary General, what's his name, Cuellar, later provided a statement to PBS, which he refuted. Oh, okay, so here's part of the story is she says she was abducted with somebody else. Now, at the time, I think maybe even in the documentary, she doesn't say who it is, but maybe Rainey says this, or through the triangulating all the different things that have come out, it's believed to have been this UN Secretary General, that he was abducted with her, and the two guards that were guarding him on the street in their car, they saw them floating through the sky. Now, they asked this guy years ago, were you abducted by aliens? And he said, quote, I cannot but strongly deny the claim that I have had an abduction experience at any time, quote.
That's a very structured denial, isn't it?
It's like Cat earlier. I cannot but strongly deny. All right, hang on.
There were too many negatives. Yes. I cannot deny that I wasn't abducted.
Yeah.
On the advice of my counsel, I can neither confirm nor deny my vehement assertions that I have or have not at some point been or not been abducted by what may or may not be aliens.
Some of Rainey's
government speak for you.
Yes.
So Rainey, in addition to being married to Hoskins, did a lot of the film, documenting, I guess, of Napolitano back in the day. And some of the footage that she includes in this series shows that the alleged witnesses' descriptions of what they supposedly saw that night greatly varied in nature, with one woman claiming she had simply seen a bright light through the curtains.
Okay.
Rainey goes on to criticize her late then husband Hopkins for failing to heed discrediting elements of the case. Quote, Bud cherry-picked compelling details but ignored anything that presented difficult questions, end quote. While the documentary leaves it up to viewers to decide what they believe, Napolitano has made it clear that she doesn't approve of her portrayal in the series. Just 2 days before its October 30th premiere, she sued Netflix in an attempt to halt the project's release. According to her, they aired it. According to her complaint, which was filed in the New York State Supreme Court, the documentary defames Napolitano and paints her in an unflattering light, while allowing Rainey to play a prominent part in the story as a, quote, expert skeptic in the field, end quote, when she was instead a, quote, embittered alcoholic ex-wife hell-bent on revenge against her husband, end quote.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. The lawsuit claims that the doc was Rainey's, quote, last dying act of retribution to get even with her ex-husband.
Wow. There's always
But,
a backstory.
We know all those things can be true, and the story could still be true, because the problem with all things is that they happen to humans who are flawed and imperfect and have their foibles. And they could be bad people who tell lies, and doesn't mean it didn't happen. Maybe it didn't. Again, I don't have the evidence. I've not watched it yet, but it's almost as if in order to be believed, you've heard the reports, right? It's like, well, why do aliens always abduct, hillbillies and rednecks and people of low IQ? With the assumption is that, well, those people are dumb and that's why they believe it. And then if somebody, like we talked about the Rendlesham incident a few weeks ago,
Yes.
people take that more seriously because, oh, well, why do these people need to lie? Oh, they're authorities. They have a reason. Again, take the thing you don't believe out of it. It doesn't have to be aliens. If something's happening to someone and you believe it's because of, believe them or not based on their personality doesn't impact whether or not it happened to them. They could be both weird, lying, deceitful people and could have had this traumatic thing happen too. But we tend to go, oh, well, if they're weirdos and they're liars, they're lying about everything. You paint with one brush, and it's more granular than that usually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw a quote from Hopkins, the author of the book that they're talking about, saying it was true for Linda. So to your point,
There you go.
John,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, which I tried to think that. Look, it doesn't matter to me. I guess if we talked about this, if someone's trying to defraud somebody based on some bullshit they made up, all right, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Writing a book about it, I don't even know if that would be considered, trying to, I don't know, maybe it would, because the Amityville Horror and those two knuckleheads, two conjuring people.
Right. Well, then you're ascribing motivation to the author. If their motivation was to defraud for profit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yes.
Right. What if they actually believe it? Should they not be allowed to profit from it because you don't believe it?
Right. That's right. You're right. I'm just drawing a distinction between Ed and Lorraine, who's the supposed folks that what the hell?
Oh.
One of my soundproof wall things is moving on its own here. Like there's something
Oh.
behind it or a ghost.
So he talks about Ed and Lorraine Warren, and suddenly there's a poltergeist in his studio.
You can see this. It's really creepy. I think it's a cat reaching from under the door and grabbing.
You hope.
Yes.
I do. Yeah, yes, that's true. All right. Anyway, so yeah, but we don't. Ed and Lorraine Warren. This has been proven. I'm not making this up. They made this shit up to make money. They do. It's documented them telling the authors, "Look, don't just make up whatever you want. We know how to sell books." You're right, John. So that's different. So Joe says, I actually believe I saw an alien in the mid-'70s. All kidding aside, still can see it in my memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, alien abductions happen to, quote, redneck hillbillies because their brains taste better.
Wait a minute.
Right.
Are we
They're-
conflating aliens and zombies?
What's the? It's like tender meat. It's like the lamb that they don't let walk around because it's super tender.
Yeah, right. Yes, that's right. They're living
Whatever
in
that's
the
called,
right.
Right.
the veal, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Right. If you don't use your brain, it's super tender and moist because you don't have all those. It's real nice and smooth. No wrinkles in
right.
it.
Yeah.
It's a delicacy on Ichnar Prime.
And Chad says, I would ask for a prostate exam while the aliens are down there. Yeah.
Oh, why not?
Ooh.
Their
I'm pretty
technology is
some
better than ours.
Alabama brain.
Oh,
I don't know if they document it, but you're getting a prostate exam. They're going right past the prostate, Chad. You're right. They could probably take a peek.
We're not stuck. Yeah. As we zip by the prostate, we'll take a look.
Yeah, we'll get it on our way back.
We'll be.
everything in order there? All right.
We're going top speed past that, though.
Yeah.
We're using the X waves, not the
After
S
we check your
waves.
esophagus via your sphincter.
Oh. Switch to S wave. Switch to S wave.
Ooh.
Did you say switch to ass waves?
I didn't. But
And John did it while going like this. Switch to ass waves. Switch to ass waves.
Hi.
It reminds me of this Jessica Rabbit video I've seen on the internet.
Oh.
Speaking of which,
Oh, he's gonna there.
Done.
Yep.
All right, it's almost. I guess it could be time now.
get my money's worth.